February came around, it was a bit of a slower month. I had only really collected around 2,500. Both of the owners came to me and essentially just accused me of funneling leads that were coming on calls with me for their offer to another offer, which was completely untrue. They had around 150,000 followers on Instagram. I said, yeah, well, look, can we go on a call, talk about offboarding, paying the commissions that I'm owed, which was 2,500 at the time. And they said no and blocked me on every single platform. My name is and here's my story.
Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be speaking with another sales rep who has had an issue with getting paid or some sort of delays in that area. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast today to chat, and let's hear a little bit more from yourself.
Hey guys, my name is and I was a sales rep at and here's my story. So essentially I started working with this company around December time, and I got paid my commissions within the month of December. At the end of the month was perfect. Same as for January, I earned around 9,000 in sales and commissions, was paid perfectly at the end of January. And then February came around, it was a bit of a slower month. Around 2 weeks into the month, I had only really collected around 2,500, so 2,500 in commissions. And both of the owners came to me and essentially just accused me of funneling leads that were coming on calls with me for their offer to another offer, which was completely untrue. Said that they were going to offboard me, that they didn't want me to work in the company, and look, at the end of the day, I said, if you guys think that and you deem that of me, that's perfectly fine, and we can get offboarded. And I said I'm okay with doing that. Of course, they had no proof. They couldn't show that I was actually doing that. Of course, I wasn't. But I said, yeah, well, look, can we go on a call, talk about offboarding, paying the commissions that I'm owed, which was 2,500 at the time. And they said no and blocked me on every single platform. And obviously at this point, I'm 2 weeks in. This was my only role that I was on. This is what I was dependent on for money coming in. And being as a sales rep, commissions, right? It's the game that we play, but if you're good, you get your commissions at the end of the month, but you also rely on companies paying you that, right? You are an independent contractor, and if they don't pay you that at the end of the month, all of your month's work has gone for nothing, and it's money in their pocket, but no money in yours. So fortunately, I ended up getting paid by them, but it took around a week and a half, 2 weeks later, with a lot of going back and forth, speaking to people that were higher up. I was lucky that I had a network of people behind me within my community of sales reps. But if it was anyone else, they wouldn't have been able to get into contact with these offer owners. So they had just blocked me, refused to pay, and then finally around 2 weeks later, they finally paid. But it was all a massive burden for me. Of course, you put your trust in people that you do work for. And then I ended up taking around 2 or 3 months off of sales as a result of that, because I was very discouraged to kind of go back. Obviously, because you're theoretically working for free until you earn your commissions and then paid. So that was my story. Essentially not being paid and, not being paid what I was due.
Well, I appreciate you for being open and honest, and honestly, that was a lot. That's a lot of things, and I think in that short space of time, obviously, as well, you just I think you said that you were just sort of new into that company. You're probably excited and probably not expecting that this was the first thing that you were it's probably the last thing in your mind that you were thinking. I'm curious, in terms of when you went in, what expectations did you have about the company and who they were? How did you go about vetting and finding that these people were someone that you could trust? Or was there any vetting involved, or did you just sort of take a wild leap? I'm kind of curious.
It was a great question. It was my first offer, so obviously you can be a little bit, hesitant going in, but I was excited just about getting an offer. At the start, they seemed very nice people, and you can't really judge a book by its cover. But no, there was no really way of vetting it, no really way of controlling it, which is disappointing when you're handling a crazy amount of money. And I'm sure with other companies that are, bringing in a lot more money, there's no way to actually vet if these people are going to pay, or if they're going to hire one rep, each month they collect a load of money for you and then they just don't pay and they keep your commissions. So no, there was really no way of vetting them.
Okay. And in terms of like, obviously, you have some sense of like trust with them and vetting them and feeling confident. What was it that gave you that? Were they like popular? Did they have an Instagram present, a YouTube present? Was it just some random people that you met, or like what was it about the company? I'm sure that they had some sort of standing, or maybe they didn't, just so that other people can understand what to look out for and how maybe you could see it or maybe you didn't see it.
Yeah, I think based on like their socials and their, the way they presented themselves online, they look like very, business savvy people. You don't think that they're going to do something like that, but I think possibly a red flag was that they, as soon as I was on one interview, they complained about another sales rep, scamming them, which is something you never really hear of. So, straight off the bat, they were talking about that and already accusing someone else. So that should have been a red flag for myself.
Okay.
But other than that, there was nothing for myself.
Okay. And obviously, without getting into too much details and obviously compromising yourself, what was the sort of like range maybe of their social media present? Was there a particular platform that they were popular on, or what does that look like?
Yeah, they had around 150,000 followers on Instagram. That was their main
Wow.
platform for bringing in, obviously leads to be able to convert them into students.
Wow, 150,000 on Instagram. So this wasn't just some like under the subway sort of person that you're
No,
working with. This is somebody that 150,000 people probably know and trust to probably get to that sort of level of Instagram.
yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
even at that, you can imagine from like the previous month in January, myself bringing in
Mm.
nearly 100K, and that was only one closer on the team, that they were bringing in a good amount of money. So they were very credible.
Okay, cool. Now, I'm curious in that specific moment where, you realized that you weren't going to work for them, and obviously that was a different situation, and like what was going to happen, whether or not like you even knew why they said that. What were you thinking in terms of like how you were going to get paid? Did you make a request to them as to like, hey, can I get my commissions on time? Where did you get to have that conversation? What was the first thing? And can you bring us through that like maybe 24, 48 hours, actually a little bit more in depth, if you're okay with sharing that?
Yeah, no, 100%. That 24 hours was definitely probably one of the most stressful times, even though if it's a small amount, but to anybody, like 2,500 is still a lot of money. But I think, yeah, it was just extremely stressful. So the timeline of it was obviously they spoke to me and they were like, no, we're firing you from the company because you did X, Y, and Z, and which were all, false accusations. And from there was no conversation. They blocked me on everything. On Instagram, they blocked that. They blocked my WhatsApp number, both of the offer owners. And then from there, I got my coaches within my community. They had connections with the company that from get all of their closers. And essentially, what they did was they created a group with the two offer owners and said, we're not going to give you any other sales reps or refer anyone to you if you don't pay commissions. And
Okay.
otherwise, show proof. And then it was back and forth, and then they ended up paying.
Okay, so you actually got the money back because you were part of a sales rep community which had connections with the people who had placed you, and they had a bit of leverage in that situation to sort of, apply a bit of pressure to that specific situation and say, hey, basically stop holding this person for ransom or you will not receive anything else.
100%. Otherwise, I would never have got my money.
Wow. Okay. And like, obviously after that situation, you said you took a break for 3 months. Why was that? How did you feel? Because obviously it seems like you were a good enough sales rep and you were on track for probably a good month there as well. What made you want to take those 3 months out and like, I guess what went on during that time?
Yeah, it was definitely okay. Anyone who is a sales rep or works in the high ticket sales knows how hard you work and the amount of time that you put in it. It was definitely a lack of trust with any type of offer owner that, am I going to put in the work here and, bring you in money and then you're not going to pay me at the end of the day. I think there was a massive lack of trust within the community, which is not fair because not every offer owner is like that, but there lacked that sense of security with being paid what is due to your own hard work.
And I'm curious for you, what do you think that effect has had on you in terms of your relationship with the market? Do you feel like you would be able to be a sales rep again? Have you since gone back and tried to be a sales rep? How would you in the future sort of vet things to prevent this from going on? Or do you feel like you sort of almost still always have to take that risk?
I think so. My relationship with it now has definitely changed. I'm not in a commission-based role. I'm on a base, which at the end of the day is still not secured, but um, I think it's definitely strained. I went back onto an offer, and then I ended up leaving that to go onto a CSM role and then a COO role. So definitely a transition in the type of sales that I was doing, and the situation where I hadn't got paid and that whole situation with that company definitely fueled that transition.
Okay, so you almost actually transitioned out of the commission only world because of that specific experience. Now, do you think if you had like obviously had always gotten paid and there'd never been an issue that you might have always continued being a commission only sales rep and like even working on roles that have commission if you felt like you were always guaranteed to be paid?
Yeah, 100%. I know, like, if you have 100%, you're gonna get paid at the end of the month. Why not put your all in? And I definitely think I would be making a lot more money within a commission base because obviously the potential there is more because you're at your own risk. But there is no way of doing that, especially with like at the end of the day, you get older, you have bills and whatnot. People end up paying late. Like it's not guaranteed at the end of the month you get paid. It may be stalled a week or two. So having that base has definitely calmed me in that sense, but it's definitely taken away from, let's say, even money earned.
Okay. So basically, you've now gone and gotten a base instead, right? And not necessarily because you just want a base, but because like you can't rely on the fact that somebody can just decide on a given moment they're not going to pay you, and then you have to go through this situation. And you've got bills, things to take care of, family, etc. But like in an ideal world, you would actually still maybe want to be a commission-only sales rep, or at least have that.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot more you would be a lot more comfortable doing it. And especially for let's say even in my spot where I was, now I'm more, seasoned, but especially someone starting off and being a little bit hesitant, having a secured way of getting paid 100%. You would dive straight into it. But it's also like I have people within my community that it's like, oh, I'm not sure about going on this offer because what if I just work for free and then they just don't pay me? Like I've been asked that multiple times. So it
Okay.
stops people from wanting to jump into things.
Okay. And I'm curious, if you could rewind time, take it back then, or maybe even look into the future, how do you think like sales reps should have been paid, or what do you feel like if there was a way you could have written the script of how this process looks like, how would you have wanted that process to look like? Let's say everybody said business owner, everyone's like, hey, we'll pay you in the exact way that you want, no questions asked. You just tell us how you want it to be done, and B, how it's going to get done. What would you have said honestly yourself into what you would have wanted it to be?
In an ideal world, I know obviously between sales reps you have your contracts, but contracts mean nothing at the end of the day. Um, Whether your commissions are straight away put into, like, let's say like you have many bank accounts that they're there. I found that in my experience, what a lot of the closers said within the same company that I was working in, that the offer owners misused the money and they just didn't have it there and they wanted a reason not to pay me. So that in a sense is a secure way of them not being able to reach your earned commissions because straight away that should go to you. Um, but obviously that would take a lot of time and effort on a system that's not automated, let's say.
Okay. So essentially what you're talking about is maybe some sort of like escrow position where like the money goes somewhere else and like that the business owner couldn't touch it, it was secured. And in terms of the cadence of you getting paid, how did you feel about getting paid? Did you like getting paid monthly? Do you like weekly? How do you like a bi-weekly? I know everybody else has, sometimes people have their own sort of positioning on this.
Yeah, I think I've had multiple different experiences. I personally don't like the monthly payments. I just it's a strain. I think the bi-weekly is great for myself. Some people may prefer it, even weekly. But bi-weekly is very easy to manage. The monthly payments are a pain in the ass, kind of.
Okay. Okay. So like basically monthly for you is just, and what is it about the monthly that makes it, I guess, the pain in the ass? What is it?
I think it's just dragging it out, whether you have good money management or, whether you put stuff away. I think it's nice to have it even bi-weekly. Seeing it in your bank account, it's kind of a mind thing where half the month is gone. You collected X, Y, and Z, that goes straight into your bank account. Perfect, let's go for the second half. Like, it'll get you even more motivated, because obviously you see that money coming in. Where I think a lot of the time within companies, when you do really well the first 2 weeks and then it's like, well, I've already collected this, like, oh, perfect, like, let me just coast for the next 2 weeks. Whereas that's already in your bank account. Okay, perfect, back to zero, let's go. That's what I found anyway when I was on an offer where I was paid bi-weekly.
Cool. Well, listen, I appreciate you for being open and honest and sharing that experience. I know as a sales rep myself that this is nothing easy to go through, and it's always been a tough time for anybody that I've spoken to that's had this experience. And listen, I hope the world can change in the future for people like yourself, sales reps in general. I think you guys are always some of the best people that I've ever met, and hard workers, and people that should get paid what they deserve. So I appreciate you so much for being open and honest, sharing what you can with us here, and good luck with everything in your career.
Perfect, cheers, and I appreciate you shedding light on this area as well.
No worries. Thank you so much. See you then. Take care. Bye-bye.